Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Yeah, this one's coming out a little late. Normally I get these things recorded and uploaded by Sunday night, and they go out on Monday morning. They're officially published on Mondays, but I had some technical problems, we shall say. I had everything ready to go, all edited and down, and then realized that somewhere about halfway through, the audio file was damaged, and I ended up sounding like I don't know, a chipmunk with firecrackers going off behind me. I have no idea what was going on. So this is going to be like take 6. But hey, uh, you just roll with it. You got to, right? Anyway, today we are going to talk about a absolutely fascinating plant, one of my favorite herbs. Well, it's not an herb I use a lot. In fact, it's not an herb I would ever use internally. And I am going to tell you, you never use this internally. It is an herb I use sometimes topically, but it is also one of our most beautiful wildflowers here in North Carolina. It is wolfsbane, monkshood, officially called aconite. One variety of it that grows in Tibet is the most poisonous plant on earth. Every aconite, every wolfsbane, monkshood, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely deadly taken internally. A little tiny bit will kill you dead. Not like send you to the hospital and, they're going to help you recover. No, you're just going to die. There are emergency procedures. We'll talk about that. Inducing vomiting, various things. But literally, this will kill you dead. It does have medicinal use. We'll talk about those. It has a fascinating history going back thousands of years. As I said, it's absolutely gorgeous. It has these deep blue flowers. It's just still used by florists sometimes in floral arrangements. You may have heard about it in popular culture like movies, television, books, mystery novels, that kind of thing, because it's been one of the most popular poisons in human history. But and people grow it in flower gardens and such. And see, the thing is, along with a few other plants, like digitalis, foxglove, there are a few that you might grow in your garden that are just beautiful flowers. You need to know how poisonous those plants are so no kids or pets or anything eat them. And actually, if you're going out foraging and gathering herbs, sometimes like in early spring, wolfsbane or aconite, I'll just try to go with aconite from now on, the leaf can look a lot like geranium. So you need to identify this plant. It's like when I teach about mushroom hunting, mushroom foraging for wild mushrooms. That's how I got into herbal medicine. It's an absolute passion for me. I love to go out and collect wild mushrooms. I love to eat them. That's like been my passion since I was a child. The way I teach it, and I don't normally formally teach mushroom hunting. It's a specialized thing. But when I get into the mushroom section of foraging, I focus on teaching people how to identify the poisonous mushrooms first. And that's pretty much the opposite of the way everybody else does it. I mean, everybody else is like, this is a chanterelle, this is a bully, this is a um, morel, whatever, right? And so identify these good ones and only eat the good ones. Yeah, that's great. Okay. But see, you're going to run across like destroying angels, amanita mushrooms, and gomphuses. I mean, these can be super poisonous, right? So what I do is I like make a list of like the top 10 or 12 poisonous mushrooms that you're likely to encounter. And I make sure you absolutely know those mushrooms first so you don't eat them by mistake, because that's how people get killed. I probably need to do that with plants. I was just thinking about that. I could easily come up with like the dozen most deadly plants you're going to encounter in North America, especially Eastern North America. Um, Aconites could be top of the list. Okay. Poison hemlock, water parsnip, probably Jimson weed, horse nettle, foxglove, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, well, lily of the valley is a really good example because, when it first comes up in spring, it looks a lot like ramps, like the wild leeks that I so love to harvest in the mountains of North Carolina. Lily of the valley would be growing right there beside them. And it's so easy to mistake the two. Now, lily of the valley may not kill you. It has a digitalis-like effect, just like foxglove. But whereas foxglove tends to strengthen the heart rate, lily of the valley has a strong sedative effect, which will slow the heart rate in large amounts. Well, and I guess foxglove actually does the same in large doses. So, you might survive lily of the valley. You're not going to survive monkshood. Hellebore would be another one. What is it so often mistaken for skunk cabbage? I can't remember that one right now. Some of the spurges you definitely do not ever want to put in your mouth. Absolutely. Yeah, so maybe in a future show or series of shows, or heck, I may even do another book. I'm always writing books. In fact, I got another book coming out next week. I'm just going to give you a hint about it right now. So, got another book coming out next week. So, look forward to that. Anyway, I think it's really important to learn what not to eat. Maybe even more important to learn that than to learn what to eat. Because there's a lot of stuff that you can eat that's not going to make you sick, but you're just not going to like the taste of it. Or it might upset your stomach a little bit. I mean, that's especially true with mushrooms. Most what we call non-edible mushrooms really just cause stomach upset, whereas some of them will kill you dead. I mean, Amanita, again, I guess, yeah, I think I just mentioned that earlier, will turn your liver into jelly, not even jello, not even with the firmness of jello. Just, it will liquefy your liver in a matter of hours. You never want to touch that. The gomphus, what a crazy mushroom that is. It's brass colored. It's shiny. It looks like metal. And even touching it can be toxic. But then you have your agaricus, and some of the agaricuses can be toxic. So anyway, I always think it's a really good idea to start with the poisonous ones first. But anyway, we'll get into that in just a minute, and you're going to love monkshood. You're going to love. I mean, honestly, even if it had no medicinal use, I would grow it just because it's so dang pretty. It's one of the prettiest flowers. That deep blue color, like cobalt blue, maybe even a shade deeper. Indian ink blue. It's just amazing. Whenever you see one, you cannot pass by it without noticing it. And sometimes, if we go back to what we call the doctrine of signatures, we say that God kind of put a sign in a plant. Dark blue and purple flowers tend to either be poisonous or strongly medicinal. Gentian, for instance, often has a blue or purple flower. Very, very, very bitter. Bitter is also a warning sign. In the case of gentian, it's one of our most medicinal herbs. In the case of monkshood, that is like the yellow on a wasp or a yellow jacket. It's telling you, stay away. This thing is going to hurt you. Well, anyway. Violets, of course, would be another exception. I mean, yeah, violets can be blue and purple and, very wonderful medicinal properties, of wonderful edible food. But you really don't fool around with blue flowers or purple flowers. You need to know exactly what it is. The same is true with umbelliferous plants. I mean, we talk about poison hemlock. We're looking at the parsley family, the carrot family. I mean, poison hemlock can be almost identical to wild carrot. You absolutely need to identify it. And how do you identify poison hemlock? Well, um, you need to learn the leaves, of course. You need to learn the shape of the umbelliferous flower bunch, whatever you want to call it. Usually there's a little purple flower, in the middle of all that white, actually on the carrot, not on the poison hemlock. So in that case, that little tiny purple flower is actually telling you this one's probably the good one. But again, I want you to learn to identify these plants before you ever ingest one. But with monkshood, aconite, never ingest it. We will talk about some older herbal remedies going back to, even to the 1930s. In the British pharmacopoeia, doctors were prescribing certain preparations of aconite to be used internally. You will never use those in home use. You may be surprised that some of the commercial products you have on your shelf for muscle, nerve, and joint pain, topical creams and salves and, whatever, liniments, actually contain aconite. And you wouldn't know that unless you went to the ingredients and you go back there and you read in that little microscopic letters, this product contains aconite. It should be like in big bold letters, this product contains aconite, because you get it in your mouth or your kid gets into it, they could die. Now, that's something I don't understand. I mean, these are good products. I use some of them myself. There are topical muscle, nerve, and joint pain relief creams and such that contain monkshood, aconite, that contain belladonna, that contain jimson weed. Things in the datura family. Again, it's down in the fine print. And these are very, very, very poisonous plants. Meanwhile, we as herbalists are so heavily regulated. I mean, if I was to put something in a salve, a tincture, or a liniment, not a tincture, but a liniment, and I mean, a liniment's a tincture you use externally. Sometimes people will say a tincture or liniment, and you're just supposed to know if it's poisonous, don't take it internally. But see, if we do that, the government's going to say, you got to put in big, bold letters, this is poisonous. Do not take it internally. These companies do it, and it's like they don't even care. I don't think if the FDA even... Okay, I'm not going to disparage the FDA right now. I could. I would be very well justified in it, but I'll let them slide for right this minute. Let's just say we're a whole lot more heavily regulated than the big businesses are. Our little, back porch herbal practices, our kitchen medicine, if we actually try to sell something to somebody, they're all over us. If you do it for yourself, if you give it away to friends, family, you're good. But if you actually try to sell it for 50 cents, they're all over you. Meanwhile, they really don't seem to, look at all the recalls every week in just foods and they're not, I don't know. I guess once the big companies get all their protocols in place and get their licenses, the government just thinks, all right, they're on their own. We don't worry about them anymore. I have no idea. But look, if I put monkshood in something and I didn't label, one drop of this taken internally could kill you dead, I'd be in big trouble. Meanwhile, I can go down the drugstore in any town in the USA and walk down the aisle for topical pain relief, and I'm going to be saying, yep, there's one there, and there's no warning label on the product whatsoever. If there is, it's in very fine print. You're not going to see it. But anyway, we will get into that in a minute. Before we do, I want to take care of a little housekeeping. So a few weeks ago, a guy got in touch with me, and he said, hey, I listened to your show, and you're from North Carolina. My company's based in North Carolina. We're a small coffee roaster in Raleigh, North Carolina. Just wanted to send you a couple of samples and ask you what you think about it. And I said, hey, thanks. I appreciate that. I love coffee. And if it's good, I'm going to give you a review. And he said, cool, And so I'm going to give him a review. They sent me 2 packs of coffee. One a medium roast called the Cowboy Blend, and the other dark roast called Bean Martin, which I love. I'm a huge Dean Martin fan. Hey there, Pally, have yourself a cup of coffee. Uh, it is such good coffee. It is such good coffee. Now, when I was a kid, growing up around Boone, North Carolina, we had this little coffee house called the Beanstalk. And this was before Starbucks. This was before you went in and spent like 15, $20 for a cup of burnt coffee and a muffin. Starbucks coffee is absolutely horrible, by the way. Go back, go to YouTube, look up Jackie Mason talking about Starbucks. I don't even know, 20 years ago. He's like, this is lousy coffee. It's Boink coffee. You pay $15 for a cup of Boink coffee. He was absolutely right. It is burned. Went to school with a girl who became a professional coffee roaster. I learned all about it. But really, a lot of my education in coffee, not that I could do it. I mean, I learned the principles of it. I know when coffee's good and when it's bad and why it's bad. But the principles I learned, as a teenager there at the Beanstalk. And the Beanstalk was like an old-fashioned coffee house. It was like a, folky kind of hipster, but local hangout as well. It was right down King Street near the campus every day, and late into the night it'd be filled with college students, professors, professional people, doctors, lawyers, locals, every walk of life, tourists, you name it. A cup of coffee was like $1.50. And you could have Kona coffee, you could have Jamaican Blue Mountain, you could have specialty roasts coming in from Asheville or San Francisco, and 6 and 1, half dozen of the other. Asheville might as well be on the West Coast. You could have the finest coffees on the face of the earth. I learned to enjoy European coffees there. For like $1.50, $2 a cup. You could have a cappuccino, you could have a latte, whatever. And upstairs was the smoking sections where the music was. Everybody was smoked like a train back then. And you go in, you spend $2, $3, $5, have a cup of coffee, hang out for hours with people from all walks of life. I mean, you'd be 15 years old, you'd be sitting there with people 10, 20, 30, 40 years older with you, and you're just talking and hanging out and laughing. And that's the way I grew up. It's been really weird in the past few years living in areas that were not college towns, realizing there's this stratification between generations that was never there when I was a kid. I mean, from Boone, North Carolina to Athens, Georgia. Down in Athens, we go down to the 40 Watt. That was this little bar and music venue owned by the guys from REM, or we go to the Georgia Theater or the Globe. The Globe was awesome. I remember when I realized I was accepted into the Athens community was when grad students and college professors and newspapermen and politicians and such started, and lawyers and all kinds of people started inviting me to the Globe to have a scotch and a cigar. And it was just like the Beanstalk, just like the old coffee house in Boone. Comfortable chairs, sofas, drinks were inexpensive. High-end scotch, but they didn't overcharge you for it. $5 for, a glass of single malt. A glass of single malt, no ice, $5, and you could smoke. And you'd be sitting there, I had a professor that was like in the Clinton administration. We didn't agree on anything politically, but we could sit there and laugh and talk and debate and just have good-natured fun and find out we really agreed on more things than we disagreed and become good friends. Another one, a grad student, was a teaching assistant from Romania. She would just give me hell constantly. She was gorgeous. She had dark hair, the gypsy look, and intelligent. And she introduced me to all kinds of people from Eastern Europe, Romania, Czechoslovakia, Russia, Ukraine, Poland. Found out I had tons in common with people from the entire different side of the world. We had a passion for food and music and politics and philosophy. And, it was just great. That's the kind of place the Beanstalk was. Well, at the Beanstalk, I learned what really good coffee was. And things like that are kind of in the past now because corporations have taken over. Another thing, when I was down in Georgia, there was this little Cuban cafe, Cafe Cubano, I believe it was called. And they had Cuban coffee, Cafe Cubano. Again, it's just two different ways of pronouncing very similar words, actually. But it was phenomenal. And I really developed a taste for that really dark roast coffee. So when the guy asked what kind of coffee I'd like to have, oh, and let me tell you, I developed a taste for Cuban food like crazy as well. Ropa Vieja, and I mean, I'm just amazing stuff. I love Cuban food. But anyway, so the guy asked me what kind of coffee I like. I said, well, I like a dark roast, but not burnt like Starbucks. He said, we would never do that. I said, all right, I'm glad to do it. So he sends me a medium blend called the Cowboy Blend. It's a medium roast. It says it's smoky and bold with flavors of dark cocoa, brown sugar, and cedar. Tried that first. Wow. I am telling you, best medium blend coffee I've ever had. It is nutty. It is slightly sweet. It is rich. I've never had medium blend coffee this rich. I tried the dark roast, and oh man, I mean, if it's not the best dark roast coffee I've ever had, it's right up there. When they roast those beans, they're not even burning the tip ends of them. I mean, this is so smooth. It is so rich. It is so good. Yeah, I can't say enough good about this coffee. And so anyway, yeah, I'm not getting kickbacks or anything. I'm just telling you, this is really good coffee. And I'm always pleased to talk about a local company that's doing things the right way. When I tell you they're doing things the right way, all right, so first of all, 100% organic. That makes a tremendous difference in coffee. Coffee grown with all the chemicals, non-organic coffee, it's bitter, it's unbalanced, it doesn't have that rich, nice flavor, and it's really not that good for you. You get more of the jitters from it. This is so smooth, it's ridiculous. I mean, it really lives up to the Dean Martin reference. I mean, it's cool, it's laid back. Fair trade, so that means they're treating their farmers right. Now, coffee, sugar, rum, tobacco, really bad history. Pineapples, really bad history of treating the farmers pretty bad. I mean, from slavery to worse than slaves in many cases. Fair trade means that they're taking care of the producers, and that's always a good thing to look out for. Okay, shade grown, also very, very important. Shade grown coffee is much smoother. It has more depth. You'll know the difference if you've had the two. But then, they also, they're environmentally conscious, which I like. They use rainwater for flushing the toilets and everything. Wonderful. I'm a super huge advocate of using rainwater. But also they use solar energy, which is great. They do a lot for charities and such. They seem to be really good people. I'll give you the address. It's 1507 Gavin Street, Raleigh, North Carolina. Let's see. I need to give you the website, I guess. Let's see what the website is. Larry's Coffee, larryscoffee.com. Go to Larry's Coffee, check them out. I tell you, they're really, really good. They do whole bean, they do ground, they do K-cups. They've got, let's see, they got a house blend, they got espresso, Salvador Dali blend, El Salvador Dali. I love that. Medium roast flavors of s'mores, hazelnut, and brown sugar. Just, God, I'd have to try that just because of the description. Mightier Mocha Java, bittersweet cacao, blackberry, and jasmine flavors. No doubt, I've got to have that. Dr. Moho, flavors of dark chocolate, marshmallow, and Brazil nut. That's awesome. Let's see what they said about that Bean Martin. Chocolate flavor profile. Chocolate, blackberry, and walnut. Yeah, I get that walnut, absolutely, that chocolate. I actually put a little shot of bourbon in my coffee this morning. A little congested, for medicinal reasons. As my old friend Kinky Friedman would say, have a little liquor drink to cut the phlegm. Of course, that's what it was all about. No, it wasn't. It wasn't morning. It was closer to noon. But anyway, I'd already had a full breakfast by then. That was my finishing off the morning cup. Decaf, a Sammy Decaf Jr. Love that. I mean, these guys obviously have good taste in music. Dark chocolate, walnut, maple syrup. You remember when, this is so politically incorrect. I'm sure these guys would not want to be associated with this whatsoever. But there was a Rat Pack concert. It was Dean Martin. It was Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. and they're giving each other a hard time. Sammy Davis was a little guy, and he's picking on Dina for being Italian. Dean Martin comes over, picks him up. He says, "I'd like to thank the NAACP for giving me this trophy." You never get away with that in 2026, and that's a shame. I mean, come on, go back to Sanford some. We got to laugh about things, especially if you're friends. If people aren't picking on you, they don't like you. There's a French roast. I love a good dark French roast. Got to see a Bolivian, Costa Rican. That's a Costa Rican Little Ricky. Babalu, there you go. An Ethiopian, Bad Kitty dark roast. Dark, sweet, complex, and bold. I got to try that. Decaf espresso, Sumatran. I love Sumatran coffee. It's a light roast. Yeah, very flavorful. Then they have some, like for North Carolina, like based on our region, Smoky Mountain Blend, Blue Ridge Mountain Blend, Appalachian Journey, Magic City Decaf Half-Calf Blend. I mean, this is great. These guys obviously love what they do, and I think they're doing a great job. All right, a Woodstock Blend. What is that? Creamy walnut chocolate-covered berries. Ooh. I have to give that a try, eh? All right. So anyway, that's Larry's Coffee. Do check out larryscoffees.com. I'm not being paid to say this. I just think it's really good coffee. And when I find a local business that's doing things the right way, I always want to tell you about them. I've talked about distilleries, barbecue joints. I mean, when I find a local business, especially if they've been around for a long time, like Scott's Barbecue down in Goldsboro. I mean, I'm going to tell you about her. Scott's in Hemingway, South Carolina. Oh, man. Now, there's an institution. Both of them are, really. Monk's, Lexington #1 Barbecue in Lexington, North Carolina. I've told you about these places. I'm going to continue to do that. I think it's important to not only shop local and support people, it's important to highlight people when they're doing things the right way, and it's important to keep traditions alive. And yeah, I mean, if all you know of coffee is like, I don't know, grocery store, Folgers, and Maxwell House, that's fine. Starbucks is 10 times worse. Starbucks has worse coffee than most gas stations. Honestly, the only place on earth that has worse coffee than Starbucks is probably Bojangles. I hate to say that, North Carolina chain. They do great chicken and biscuits. They do horrible coffee. I mean, it is like disgusting. I don't even understand how they can make coffee so bad. Wonderful food. I love the French fries. Horrible coffee. But when I find somebody who's doing something the right way, I want to tell you they're doing it the right way. So, once again, one more bit of housekeeping before we move on. Somebody doing things the right way. The Raw Milk Mama, Liz Rietzing. You've heard her on the show. I've interviewed her a couple of times. Good friend of mine. She is also a great herbalist. She hasn't really talked about this on the show a lot. For, I guess, 5 years or so, she's been doing herbal tea workshops up where she lives in Maryland. And she's going to be doing another one in September, and I think one in October. These are free. You only pay for the tea. No registration fees. You're going to get about 2 hours of education if you're in the area. And this is a great time to go to the area. She's sort of like in the DC metro area in Maryland. I actually don't know what the name of the town is she lives in. You'll need to get in touch with her. Liz at nourishingliberty.com. What a great time to go to the area. I mean, this is 250th anniversary of our country. The crime's down around DC. It's actually pretty safe to go there now for like the first time in 20 years. It's still hot right now, August, but hers going to be in like September, October. It's going to be a lot nicer. Let me tell you, I have family history dating back to that area a long ways. I mean, the Carrolls came out of Maryland. Charles Carroll signed the Declaration of Independence, the first Catholic family in America. The Carrolls sold the land to George Washington for part of his estate. I mean, it's going way back, right? So as a kid, we used to go up there all the time. My grandfather worked at the shipyards in World War II. And then my aunt with the Smithsonian worked with Monticello and Mount Pelier and different places. I mean, we were up there like all the time, but we always had to go to a couple places, like Front Royal was one in Virginia, but definitely Annapolis, Maryland. These were places like, get away. We've done the Smithsonian. We've been to the monuments. Now let's get out and kind of enjoy the countryside and the culture. Well, Annapolis was like one of my grandfather's favorites because he loved to see the naval ships come into port. That was a big deal. So we'd always hit there. And back then it wasn't what it is now. Liz tells me it's like really crowded, but they have phenomenal seafood. And that's what I'll always remember about it. Blue crab, oysters, and these potato planks. Oh my gosh, they would take like a russet potato and slice it into maybe 6 wedges, put chicken seasoning on it, deep fry it, and you get your big thing of seafood and those potatoes. My mouth is watering just remembering this. It's a beautiful place. It's absolutely beautiful. And if you get in touch with Liz, and you're thinking about maybe traveling over there, spending a weekend or a few days, maybe she could tell you a place, maybe outside of the city, maybe a little more rural, somewhere, she's a very friendly person, very informative. She's one of the most intelligent people I know and a very, very good herbalist. So if you can incorporate this into your plans, I think you're going to really enjoy it. But what I was just going to say, it's 250th anniversary of our country. You definitely try to visit if you can. I know it's hot right now, but try to visit. This is sort of a big deal, y'all, Anyway, so she's doing hands-on creativity and herbalism. Wednesday, September 9 will be the first one. Learn the basics of herbal actions for addressing anxiety, sleep changes, and supporting the immune system. Get your creativity flowing with making your own blends to give support where you need it most. See and work with dozens of herbs. Understand how herbal blends are prepared for maximum efficacy. That word would be efficacy. Get clarity instead of internet marketing tactics, something we both always try to do. Have fun while learning something useful. Understand the well-established principles of traditional herbalism. Learn why and how some herbs help boost your immune system and how to use these herbs in tasty blends. Become familiar with the herbs that are known for calming the mind and learn how Nervines can help you and your kiddos get a good night's sleep finally. Let's see, I guess there's going to be another one October 16. It's a free class. Schedules 6 to 8 p.m. They start with a welcome introduction, choose your recipes and make your blends, and question answers and wrapping up. Liz is a veteran homeschool mom of 5, wellness coach, clinical herbalist. She believes that herbs are gifts from God and that we should all have access to this information. She's been teaching herb and tea classes for over 5 years and looks forward to helping the next generation be herbally literate. She says children are welcome. It will be for a 16-plus audience, but the kids are welcome. Registration's free. Pay for whatever blends you make at $10 an ounce, which is really cheap. So she says if you have any questions or comments, contact her. Liz at nourishingliberty.com, and her website is nourishingliberty.com. And of course, if you're not familiar with Liz, the Raw Milk Mama, you need to learn about all her stuff. She's got a great book out. She's been working as an advocate for raw milk and for our food systems for quite a while now. And she's a good one. All right, now, y'all, let's talk about all right, let's get into aconite. Aconitum. Aconite, also called blue rocket, devil's helmet, helmet flower, leopard's bane, monk's hood, queen of poisons, wolf's bane, and woman's bane. It is among the most poisonous plants known to man. In the past, it was actually used to poison wolves, and several prehistoric European tribes are said to have dipped their arrows into the poison. Aconite is also among our most beautiful wildflowers. The color of the flowers is, like I said, a deep blue, and the shape reminded early writers of a monk's hood. The shape of the flower is very unique. Although even a small amount of the plant taken internally can cause death, used topically, it is among our most effective herbs for severe muscle and nerve pain, but it should only be used by expert herbalists. Dioscorides, writing of aconite, ancient Greek medicine, mainly talked about it as poison. But he did say something really remarkable. He said that the root looked similar to the tail of a scorpion and glittered like alabaster. And he said, they say that the root of this applied to a scorpion makes him insensible and that he is raised again by hellebore applied to him. Bizarre. I have no idea. But really the only medicinal use he gives, he says that applied or mixed with other pain-relieving medicine and applied, it would relieve pain in the eyes. So main use he gave, he said put into lumps of meat and given to them, it kills panthers. So if you got panthers or wolves, he said, all wild beasts, yeah, there you go. He said they use it for hunting wolves. Yep. So we get up to about 1500s England. Culpeper also mostly wrote of the poisonous qualities of this plant. And he mentions that recently people had in Antwerp, there we go, Antwerp, Belgium, had included some in a salad and it killed him. You know, really not good. He gives the symptoms. We'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah, mainly he just goes along about the poisonous qualities of the plant, which is obviously wise. Good thing to do. Miss Grieve, 1930s England, gives us a very different picture of this plant. Apparently, by this time, it was included in the official British pharmacopoeia. This is what doctors would prescribe to patients internally. And see, this is what we're never going to do. You're never going to use this internally. But 1930s England, she lists its actions as anodyne, diuretic, and diaphoretic. She says the value of aconite as a medicine has been more fully realized in modern times, and it now ranks as one of our most useful drugs. It is most used in homeopathy. On account of its very poisonous nature, all medicines obtained from it come, however, under Table 1 of the poison schedule. Aconite is a deadly poison. So let's think about this for a minute. First of all, probably pretty harmless in homeopathy. Homeopathic compounds are diluted to the point where you can barely find any trace of the plant in the compound in a laboratory. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about homeopathy. As far as using it as a pharmaceutical drug, one must assume, and this is a large assumption, that at this time they had discovered a variety of aconite, and it was one that was used officially. In other words, there may be 30 different varieties. I have no idea. I don't have the list in front of me. We know the one in Tibet is the most deadly plant on the face of the earth. Presumably, just like with foxglove, when they were making digitalis from the plant compound, they found one variety and they grew it in one place where they knew they could count on its potency year in and year out. The same variety planted in different soil with more sunlight, more shade, more water, drought, rocky soil, better soil, whatever, it's going to vary greatly. So we have to first of all assume that they had sort of come up with an official, we will say, aconite for British herbal medicine. And if that be the case, they began using it medicinally. So she says both tincture and liniment of aconite are in general use. And aconite is also used in ointment and sometimes given as a hypodermic injection. I'm not going to do that. I'm not injecting poison into my body if I can help it. I don't listen to Dr. Fauci. But anyway, she says preparations of aconite are employed for outward application locally to the skin to diminish the pain of neuralgia, lumbago, and rheumatism. And that's still how we use it today, and that's still the safest external use possible. Okay? We're not going to worry about internal. I'm just giving you that as historical reference. Now, she says the official tincture taken internally, this is something we're not going to do, diminishes the rate and force of the pulse in the early stages of fever and slight local inflammation, such as fevers, cold, laryngitis, first stages of pneumonia and erysipelas. It relieves the pain of neuralgia, pleurisy, and aneurysm. In cardiac failure, or to prevent the same, it has been used with success. In acute tonsillitis, children have been well treated by a dose of 1 to 2 minims for a child 5 to 10 years old, and the dose of adults 2 to 5 minims 3 times a day. I don't know what a minim is, but I'm not taking this stuff internally anyway. Okay, what is the first thing she said it does? Diminishes the rate and force of the pulse and early of the pulse. We'll start with that. It affects the heart. It is slowing and weakening the heart rate. I don't want that. Now, there are times when that might be useful. For instance, if someone had taken someone had inadvertently eaten American mistletoe, that would be exactly the kind of thing you need. If someone had taken an overdose of amphetamines, that would be exactly what you would need. And actually, poison hemlock can be used similarly. The thing is, one drop too much, you're going to kill somebody or yourself. So, it has its use, but we're not going to use it, okay? But now we'll go on, and we're going to accept this, right? But before we get too far, let's give you the symptoms of what happens with aconite poisoning. In case it ever happens and you didn't know about it. Maybe your kid gets into the garden. Maybe somebody picks something up off a trail they shouldn't have. Maybe your dog or your cow eats it. Whatever. The symptoms of poisoning are tingling and numbness of the tongue and mouth and a sensation of ants crawling all over the body. That's nice, isn't it? Nausea and vomiting with epigastric pain, labored breathing, pulse irregular and weak, skin cold and clammy, features bloodless, giddiness, it's dizziness, staggering, mind remains clear. Now, if there was in one situation when I would not want my mind to remain clear, it would be in that level of discomfort. But no, your mind remains clear. A stomach tube or a medic should be used at once. In other words, pump the stomach or vomit. Interestingly, the cure for this, the remedy is tincture of digitalis given if available. Digitalis strengthens the heart rate. These two plants look very much alike. They have a similar growth pattern. The flowers look similar. Interesting, huh? I mean, we talk about the doctor's signatures, how God kind of gives you clues of what to use for what. I find that fascinating. Stimulant should be given, and if not retained, diluted brandy injection per rectum. Well, that sounds fun, doesn't it? Okay, so this is 1930s England. Stimulants, we're not talking coffee and tea. We're talking amphetamines. We're talking heavy amphetamines. We're talking cocaine, potentially something like methamphetamine, dexedrine. There's another one, dexamphetamine. What was the other one I was trying to think of? Ephedrine. We're talking hard amphetamine drugs. Up your butt. I don't want that. I don't ever want that. So I'm not going to take Muxfoot internally. So after that, one has to use artificial respiration and friction, which means rubbing usually like rough towels all over the body to keep the blood flowing, keep the skin red. And the patient should be kept lying down to control the blood pressure. So basically the stuff's going to kill you. And if it doesn't kill you, you're probably going to wish it had. So all species contain the active poison aconitine, one of the most formidable poisons which has yet been discovered, and exists in all parts of the plant, but especially the root. The smallest portion of either the root or leaves, when first put in the mouth, occasions burning and tingling, and a sense of numbness immediately follows its continuance. 1/50th of a grain, this is like tiny little pharmaceutical measurements, of aconitine will kill a sparrow in a few seconds, and 1/10 the grain, a rabbit in 5 minutes. It is more powerful than prussic acid and acts with tremendous rapidity. That's why it was a good arrow poison. You hit a large-sized animal, they'd be down in 5-10 minutes and dead. You hit a human being, they'd be down in 10 to 15 minutes at most, and probably down in 5 minutes. They'd just be dead in 15 minutes. Okay, seriously. It causes pains in the limbs, a sense of suffocation and syncope. None of these things you want to experience. So, yes, used by the ancients as a deadly poison. I agree. She says all children should be warned against aconite in the garden. It is wiser not to grow aconite among the kitchen herbs of any sort. The root has occasionally been mistaken for horseradish with fatal results. Okay, so I mean, she actually gives an instance of someone in Ireland who put aconite powdered root over a dish of greens, thinking it was grated horseradish. We definitely do not want to do that. But as far as its medicinal uses, it, as I mentioned, does have several. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. I will say that Brother Aloysius just said that monkshood is poisonous and should only be used by trained physicians. Very good advice, okay? But by the time we get to the Americas, we're talking late 1700s, early 1800s, the American Eclectic Materia Medica used it quite a bit. It says there are specific indications. The indications would be if the pulse is small and frequent, the temperature is above normal, and uh, irritation. Oh, we won't even worry about all that. But as far as therapeutic actions, it says the agent in large doses is a virulent poison, producing all those horrible things that are said. In small medicinal doses, we find that it produces but little effect perceptible to the patient except a slight numbness and tingling in the mouth and throat. But on examination, the pulse will be found less frequent and softer, the perspiration increase, as well as secretion from the kidneys. If there is any one remedy that holds a first place in the treatment of a disease, that remedy is aconite. Its action is positive yet gentle and always in the direction of normal function, and the indications are so frequently met that there is hardly a case in which it is not employed at some point of its treatment. I just say, thank God they didn't treat us. I mean, and they actually listed aconite as the child sedative. I don't think we have to worry about what called SIDS in that era. They would include it with gelsemium, one of the other most poisonous sedative herbs there is, and belladonna. It's absolutely amazing that anyone survived this era. But you have to remember, this was a time in America when epidemics were rife. You had yellow fever, you had typhoid, dysentery was just constant because of bad water, malaria. I mean, you had really, really bad stuff. And these are really extreme herbs. This is like heroic medicine. And I guess it got them through. I hope and pray we never have to use for aconite as a remedy for the early stages of tonsillitis. No, no, I'm sorry. No, we're not going to do that. If we absolutely had to, maybe cholera. I mean, yeah. Um, it's certainly still used for neuralgia, just topically. But wow, wow. So by the 1860s, research of the southern fields and forests, we find they're not using aconite internally at all. At least that I can find. They were using it topically for pain. And these were horrible conditions. The camps were dirty, the water was bad, people were getting shot, limbs blown off, gangrenous infections, um, teeth knocked out, bullets through their abdomens. I mean, horrible. And so the other thing they had to deal with was what they called camp itch, which could be anything from scabies and rabies to a fungal or bacterial infection of the skin, which was causing just horrible itching, which would drive people insane. They couldn't sleep, and they were using aconite topically. Oftentimes, they were combining it with chloroform. Um, yeah, that'd do the job. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But by 1898, when we're back in peacetime, King's Medical Dispensatory, official medical pharmaceutical textbook of the time. Textbook isn't quite the right. Well, it's a dispensatory. It's what you would use to compound medicines and what doctors would refer to. They found it very useful internally for all kinds of stuff, often combining it with belladonna and chloroform. What can you say? I mean, want to make it a little stronger? Throw some morphine and cocaine in there. I mean, this is serious hardcore. If you survive it, um, you may have been more grateful if you had not survived it. I mean, this is going to absolutely wow, huh? I mean, yeah. Um, as a special sedative, they called it. Yeah, it'd be a special sedative. hmm it's about what killed Hank Williams on his way between, where was he going? Charleston, West Virginia. And, he had spina bifida. Most people don't know that. They think that Hank Williams drank himself to death. He absolutely did not. He drank a ton. He had spina bifida to the point where he was suffering just constant pain, paralysis in his legs. You could actually, there was a part of his spine which was almost translucent. There was no bone there. It was really, really bad. It was a condition he was born with. And by that time, he was taking morphine, barbiturates, whiskey, and chloroform. So this is sort of the kind of classification where you put this one in. Definitely would not use it for 99% of the things they say it was useful for. Specific indication uses: small and frequent pulse where the chordate or compressible is direct indication, asthenic febrile state without restlessness, chilly sensations. Yeah, I'm not taking anything like that for chilly sensations. Just talking fevers. Tonsillitis, laryngitis, simple colitis. Wow. Okay. Sometimes it is a nice thing that we have advanced a bit in medicinal sciences. So, more modern use. Botany a Day says water hemlock from the parsley family may be the most poisonous plant in North America, but a species of monkshood, Aconite ferox from Nepal, is considered the most poisonous plant in the world. Even touching or smelling the plant can cause dangerous poisoning. North American species of monkshood are much less toxic, but still a deadly poison. The root is the most toxic part. A tincture or liniment may be used externally as an analgesic if the skin is unbroken, but should not be used during pregnancy. Physician's desk reference for herbal medicine only lists its use as homeopathic. But it also says in folk medicine it was used to reduce pain from neuralgia, particularly trigominous and intercostal neuralgia. It was also used for myalgia, muscular and articular, having trouble saying that word, rheumatism, serious skin inflammations, and migraine. Preparations of blue monkshood were used for pain, facial paralysis, ailments of the joints, arthritis, gout, rheumatic complaints, inflammation, pleurisy, pericarditis, fever, and skin and mucosal disease, as well as for disinfecting and wound treatment, which sounds like a horrible idea. In experimental pharmacology, aconitis is used due to its ability to trigger cardiac arrhythmia. Yet another thing we never want to do is trigger cardiac arrhythmia. We really want to do everything we can not to let that happen. So maybe we want to keep some hawthorn around, or even some lily of the valley. Both of those can actually help stop arrhythmia. Again, I can't recommend that because anything to do with the heart can be very dangerous, but traditional use. So yeah, obviously monkshood is a very poisonous plant. We got that established. It's also an extremely useful plant for pain used externally. I would grow it in the garden just because it's beautiful. I mean, it's just really one of the most beautiful flowers there is. Don't be afraid of these plants. If you use them responsibly. I'm not saying you use them at all, obviously. But, when God made the world, he looked at everything and said it was good. There is no such thing as a bad plant. We just have to learn to use them as intended. And this is a very, very, very powerful plant. And you should learn to identify it, at least so that you don't inadvertently eat it, or your kid or something doesn't inadvertently eat it. And learn what to do if they do. I mean, you have to induce vomiting immediately. And obviously get on the line with poison control and do whatever you can. But that's going to be a bad day any way you look at it. And I guess if we're ever, beset by werewolves or something, we'll have what we need. So anyway, y'all, have a good one. I think on The sixth version of this show, my voice is officially shot. I'm going to call it a day. I'll talk to you next time. The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.